open up your body, you start to feel the sensations, you start to tap into, oh, my body's feeling this. Oh, this feels really good. Oh, I like this is pleasurable for me.
1 in 3 women experience sexual trauma in their lifetime.
There's a lot of repression around sexuality.
How can we
Yes.
begin to heal it?
Once you start to listen in, you can start to hear what your body needs, what your body desires.
Could you share what it was like when your husband of 13 years came out as bisexual? Lianna Walden, do you mind starting out by explaining to us who you are and what it is that you do?
I am a relationship and sexual wellness specialist. Now, that's kind of the title that I've created over the years, but within that, I do sexual energy healing. I'm a coach around relationships and sexuality. I do de-armoring sessions with people, which is sort of a more embodied type of work. Um, I am the founder of Sexual Empowerment Academy, also called C, and I have some transformational programs on there for people who want to learn step by step on their own time. And I am a YouTuber. So I'm making weekly videos talking about things around relationships and sexuality. So those are a few things that I am in work related world.
I would like to begin by starting out talking about sexual healing. And one topic that you cover that I find very interesting, that I think everyone should probably be made more aware of, is ancestral sexual trauma. Could you talk about that a little bit?
That's a big topic to start off with, isn't it? Ancestral sexual trauma. Um, Now, this is a big part of the healing process that I go through with with men, with women, everybody. We all carry information from our ancestors, going back, ancestor to ancestor to ancestor. We carry all of this information in us to this present day, and it sits within us. And what I find in particular is that because I focus on the sexual, is that sometimes it's not something that necessarily has happened to somebody here in their lifetime. There's the trauma related issue that's holding them back from expressing who they are as a sexual person, or they're feeling held back from um, they just feel afraid and scared and blocked. So it might not be something that has happened to them in this lifetime, but it may be something that they're carrying from their ancestors about some kind of sexual trauma. And because we do carry that information, you bring in the information that you get from your parents, depending on how they treated you. And I don't know how much detail you want to go into about what this is, but um, if you as you grow up as a young person, you are learning from your parents, and they're bringing in all of that information that they brought in from their parents, brought in from their parents, and it just goes down the line. And if nobody has stopped to actually heal that aspect, and I'm very focused on the sexual, then it still stays within you. It's still part of you, and it can be something, it can be a part of you that has blocked your ability to move forward in your sexual life. Now, you may know it. You may know something about your ancestors, or maybe about your mother, your grandmother, or great grandmother, talking about women specifically, let's say, but you may not also know, because maybe nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to talk about it, because it's very taboo to talk about sex. Nobody wants to bring it up. No, maybe people know, maybe an inkling of the knowing of it, but nobody has expressed it. And so you might not even have an idea that that is what is actually blocking you from moving forward. So it's this kind of this energy inside your body that you're holding on to, and it's kind of like that. Like you can imagine that stiffness that you almost like you can't breathe.
What are some ways that someone could maybe figure out if they have this ancestral trauma that they need to heal sexually? I mean, are there certain things that happen to them or certain feelings that they experience, maybe during sex or with a partner, that would kind of give away, like, ooh, I need to look at that. Like, there might be something there that needs to be healed.
It can happen differently for, it happens differently for different people. So sometimes it may not come out till later in your life. Maybe you're married now and you've had, it's not necessarily always the beginning of a sexual relationship because it's new and it's fresh. But then as you get into the place where you want to go deeper with your partner, you find that I can't, something stops you. You find, so it's something that suddenly you feel a block in the inability to move forward in your sexual life. Now it can happen to you at a young age and you feel it right away, like I never felt interested in sex at all. I feel actually really scared of it, or something happens to me that, or somebody does something or says something and I'm triggered immediately by what I hear, what they say, and I don't know where that's coming from. It could be, it can be something that happened to you as a child and you don't know about it, because a lot of the time we'll repress any information that we receive that's negative to us, especially around the sexual. We'll disassociate from it, let's say. So it might be something there. So how I would work with someone who might come to me and say, I'm blocked, completely blocked, or I can't sort of move through, or I don't know what's going on because I'm really not enjoying sex at all, or I feel a lot of pain during sex and I don't know what that's all about. But so there's lots of different stories that come out, but it's something to do with some kind of blockage.
Okay.
So I would take people like threading through to find where that might be. And sometimes it stops in this lifetime, where it could be something that is seemingly not that dramatic, but it had a huge effect on them and actually stopped them in that place. It froze them in that place. And so we work to release that. Or it can go even farther back because they innately people know, but sometimes they haven't been led through to find where it is.
Okay. So a good clue would be you want to go deeper with your partner, but what would happen physically? Say, that if you feel stuck or if you feel that stiffness, how would that show up? Are you unable to maybe reach an orgasm? Would that be something that happens to women?
Yeah, no, it could be that. But I mean, if you're not able to reach an orgasm, that could also mean that you need some more sexual education. You just don't know how to embody the feeling of orgasm. You don't know, you've never learned anything about what is orgasm all about and how do I access this in my own body. So that might not be connected to ancestral trauma. But it might, so it's hard to know exactly what it might be in that person, but it is a type of blockage. So it would be what I see more of is that it's the blockage is a little bit deeper. It's like I don't want anything to do with sex. I don't feel anything in my body.
Mm.
I don't feel pleasure. I don't know how to connect to my partner, or I don't feel like okay, I am connecting to my partner. And what I see a lot of the time with the people that I've been working with is they've experimented a bit sexually in the beginning, but then there's like a stop of just I don't know what's happened. Like I'm not able to move any farther and I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's a case of not being able to orgasm, because that's a pretty common scenario for women, that they've maybe never orgasm through penetration, or they've never had multiple orgasmic experiences. It comes down to more about education and then learning to embody them, to be embodied, to really connect into their own body, self-pleasure practices, the whole route. I would go with somebody around that. And as I go into those types, and I do that anyways with most people, will go into the practices moving forward, but also then kind of threading back, because as you open, you start to feel other things. and then I might realize, oh, okay, they're feeling this. That's obviously connected to something deeper. So we need to go in a little bit deeper and find out what that's connected to.
Mhm.
Why are they resisting? Why do they have so much fear? Why is their body completely closing down so that we cannot move forward? It has to be an exploratory kind of way, exploratory kind of way of finding what exactly is stopping people from enjoying themselves sexually, because there's a lot of repression around sexuality, in general. So, um, but I would say that most people carry some kind of sexual trauma, and that there was a lot of sexual trauma even in, like, in my mother's generation, in my generation, in our generations, in ancestral generations. It was even, it was even more about um a woman even being able to express herself in any way in a sexual manner, um, without being ostracized or burned or called, or called a witch, being able to express her feminine energy in the way that the femininity likes to express itself, and masculine too, being told to hold yourself in, don't express yourself, repress what you really feel. So there's a lot of trauma that exists, and I try and talk to people a lot about, like, releasing it, connecting. You don't necessarily have to connect it and feel it, but we need to find a way to release it, to accept yourself for who you are right now.
I'm glad that you're bringing up, just expressing the masculine and the feminine energies and how maybe suppressing that or not being able to do that in a safe environment would be considered sexual trauma, depending on how that was reacted to. Because I think a lot of people, when they hear sexual trauma, they think of something, the extremes, like
Yeah.
rape and molestation, and you don't think of other things that could have harmed us on a soul level, on a cell level, that does carry with us, does carry through our bodies. And what are some other things that people may have experienced that cause trauma that maybe they're not even realizing or aware of, that was trauma at the time, that they still have that?
It can be, like, again, it can be very subtle to, let's say I've worked with somebody who was blocked sexually, with her partner, and we traced it back quite quickly to a very subtle moment with an uncle, who, it was sort of the innuendos that were expressed to her as a young girl, and her being very confused and not really knowing what this meant. He didn't touch her, he didn't really say anything, but it was the innuendos of it. It was his energetic expression of it. And she kind of stopped at that point, being able to really connect to her own sexual energy. So that affected her. It might not affect someone else so extremely as it affected that woman, that tiny little event, but it can. So it's a very individual experience. And um, she came from a culture that was also, there was a lot of other kinds of possible um, trauma that may have existed in her ancestry because of where she came from. She originated from, where her ancestors were from. And so a tiny event in your own life can be enough to just freeze you in a place of not knowing what you're not knowing what to do. You're scared. Your body can't take it anymore because you're holding all this other stuff as well. And once we were able to move through that, she was able to start to live her life again. So it can be like that subtle. So it doesn't, yes, there are extreme situations as well. But some people can move through extreme situations and some people can't. And some people can move through very subtle situations, some people can't.
You had shared a story that I heard when you were a little girl and you were walking home from school, and I think maybe you were in third grade, and an older boy was picking on you, like in a sexual manner, or just like innuendos, I guess, is like how you're explaining, and that impacted you for years.
Exactly, exactly. Well, there was a number of elements that impacted me. That type of an event where, a boy older than me was, you know, kind of bullying me. He wasn't, I can't remember what I said in that video, but he didn't, I don't think he physically hurt me. He was running with a stick with me at one point and he was being really mean to me, and um that affected me, but also the beliefs that my mother held on to about women going out on their own, women being alone, girls being, be careful because somebody could be behind a bush and rape you. Be careful. You certainly can't be out at night. Um, so there was these beliefs that my mother held on that were really powerful and really affected me about me as a woman, me expressing myself sexually. Um, Certainly the whole concept of sex was not even known to her, what it meant to enjoy sex, and for sex to be pleasurable and for women to be free in expressing themselves. It was, she came from the women's lib movement, and they were trying to be equal to men. So I grew up with a lot of different kinds of belief systems like that in the schools as well, teaching abstinence as the main line of what to do around sexuality. So you kind of just you kind of fall into that information, and when you grow older you're not sure what to do with what you've learned, because you think that this is all there is. And that in itself, to me, is, these are different forms of trauma, because the whole energy around sexuality, our sexuality, our expression has not been given the space to really be fully evolved, let's say. And that's in men and in women. Absolutely. It's
How,
changing.
yeah, yeah, it is. Thanks to
It's
people
changing.
like you, for sure.
Me talking about it, and generations after me talking about it, and people experimenting more and exploring, and just talking about it is the number one thing. Just talking about it, hearing other people talk about it. I mean, you can go on YouTube now and you can connect with all sorts of different things that people are doing, trying to find answers for yourself, right?
Now, how can we
Because
begin to heal it?
the first level, if is to get intimate with yourself. That means that you want to find out what it is that you want in your body, what you want, what get into yourself, get intimate with your body, get in connected to your body, to the feelings in your body, the sensations in your body. Without that connection, it's hard to know what's really going on. I really strongly believe the body has so much information that once you start to listen in, you can start to hear what your body needs, what your body desires. So I have lots of different exercises I take people through to start embodying themselves. Number one being breath. Number one being breath. Taking deeper breaths, moving the breath around your body so that you open up your body, expand your body so that you can breathe fully. I was just explaining how that energy gets like literally not being able to breathe. So when you start to really breathe at a deeper level, and there's all sorts of different breathing techniques out there, and I have my own techniques, and um, but it's mainly getting into a deeper level of breathing. So you open up your body, you start to feel the sensations, you start to tap into, oh, my body's feeling this. Oh, this feels really good. Oh, I like this is pleasurable for me. So that's the first part, is getting intimate with yourself. But equal to that is talking about it. So you might want to do that with a professional that you could feel really comfortable with and not be judged, and who really understands what sexuality is all about. Or just start talking to friends that you feel comfortable with about and ask them, what do you feel around sex? What do you do? What gets you excited? What makes you feel good? Does this happen to you? Does that happen to you? Because we get really closed down in our worlds, and we feel alone, and we think that it's all just us that's feeling these sensations or not feeling anything or not having any kind of sex in a relationship or not being able to connect, we think that we're alone a lot of the time. And so and then we don't know, we don't know what other possibilities there are. So starting to talk about it, starting to express what you're feeling, you will find that everybody is going through something. Everybody is feeling something. People are feeling exactly the same things.
Mhm.
And when people can start to talk, they start to release what's inside of them. They start to create community. They start to have support, and you start to learn more about yourself, about other people.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
is an absolutely important part of healing.
Yeah, and also they get validated, like what they're
Yeah.
going through, what they're feeling, and yeah, and on that note of feeling alone, I did look up a statistic on this. Around 1 in 3 women experience sexual trauma in their lifetime. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you find this statistic for men as well?
I didn't, but one interesting statistic I found for men, going back to the orgasm topic, 95% of heterosexual men report reaching orgasm during sex compared to 65% of heterosexual women. That's, 30% difference. How would you explain that gap?
Men can orgasm quite quickly, and they do. They can ejaculate easily. They connect ejaculation with orgasm, and they are able to do it very quickly. If they, especially upon penetration, because it's very exciting for them. They're already in a state of arousal, and so they're able to. It's done very quickly. Whereas women need a lot more time to reach any stage of orgasm, especially penetration. So 5 minutes is not going to cut it. I mean, women need 20 to 30 minutes before their body is even warmed up enough internally, externally. Um, so that's the gap there that many men don't understand that that's the situation, and many women don't understand that that's the situation. I mean, people are learning about this now, and women are starting to understand their bodies better, and men are starting to learn about women's bodies. Women just need a lot more time to get to that point of feeling the sensation of orgasm. There's lots of other layers here, but that is that is the main problem that exists, that women are not given enough time. They don't know that they need more time, and men don't know that either, that they have to allow their partner to have time to warm up and engorge and be ready for the orgasm. You can think of it like women are like like if you put a huge pot of cold water on the stove, you're going to have to wait for that water to boil. It's going to take some time. I'm talking big pot. It's going to take maybe 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, maybe longer. That's what a woman's body is like. It takes that much time. A man can orgasm, in a couple of minutes. It can ejaculate, orgasm, gone, finished. So I spent a lot of time teaching people about that in particular. And then again, before even that, getting intimate with themselves so that they can, women in particular, and men too, because men have to learn to control themselves so that they don't ejaculate too quickly. And women have to learn to tap into the pleasure of their body so they understand how to explain what they need in order for them to reach that state of orgasm.
Part of me wants to ask, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think the difference is there? Like, why can men do that so quickly? But then I feel like it lies in reproducing. Men are meant to spread their seed and to keep the population going. And so then maybe that's why.
I don't think there has been a lot of priority on women's orgasm for most of humanity. It's been mostly about procreation, right? So it's not about the woman and the woman feeling good and enjoying herself. That's not the focus. The focus is to create a baby, and the man can just ejaculate quickly and that's, you just want to connect the egg and the sperm, and
Mhm.
then let's have a baby. So it starts from that kind of belief system. So then men are, so then now, we understand, well, women actually have all sorts of pleasure centers all over their body. Women can actually multi-orgasm. Women have a lot of power in their bodies that wasn't realized, in Western civilization before. And men um, have been conditioned just to ejaculate very quickly and not focus on the pleasure of the woman. They want to see a woman in pleasure. They want to have the woman orgasm, but they don't really know how to help her or how to go into that dance together because it's mostly been just about them, not about her, right? So it stems from the beliefs about what sex is all about over time. And physiologically as well, men are just able to get erections very quickly. I mean, if women can actually orgasm quite quickly if they are masturbating on their own. There's different types of orgasms, but if you just want to release some energy as a woman and have a quick orgasm, normally women, it's shown that women can easily within 3 to 5 minutes have a quick orgasm and have a quick release, usually clitoral orgasm. So there is that ability. But if you are you're having an experience with a man and you're being penetrated, the internal walls of your vagina take a lot longer to get prepared for orgasm. There has to be, you have to get, your desire has to be activated. You have to feel really into the moment. You have to be really present. Your body has to be stimulated everywhere else first before any kind of penetration takes place. And so there's this whole new learning about, oh, the woman's body has so much pleasure and so much joy can be created here. But in order to do that, we have to take a bit more time to allow her to come into that energetically. And the man will actually experience some amazing pleasure for himself if he can hold his ejaculation longer, because now he's with a woman who's in pleasure, and that gives pleasure for the masculine. And he will hold his energy longer. So when he does eventually ejaculate, it's going to be much greater, much bigger, much more, fantastical, let's say. So, if a man ejaculates, that being the end of the scenario most of the time, he needs time to recuperate. And it takes, 2 to 5 days for a man to regenerate that sexual energy again. So it's better for him to hold it off, enjoy his time with his partner, pleasure her more, allow her to take her time, allow her to build her energy, build the energy, allow her to go into orgasmic states. And also, men can also orgasm without ejaculating, but that's another technique involved. But it does require ejaculation control. So then when he is ready to ejaculate, he's not just a little turned on and ejaculated and released, but he is super turned on and he goes through an incredible experience. This type of exercise I'm talking about is healing. It is healing for the body. This is part of sexual healing as well, and an important part in a partnership. Um, Very important part.
I want to talk about more about sexual healing and in regards to masculine sexual energy versus healing trauma around feminine sexual energy and what the difference is there. And like, does a woman need to heal masculine and feminine? Do each sexes have both energies and maybe you need to heal some of each or one or not the other?
This is a big question, Jessica.
Mhm.
um, because first you have to understand what masculine energy is and feminine energy is. Okay. So we all have both. We all have both. We all have lots of energies, but we have masculine energy, feminine energy, sexual energy. And what the differences are is and a lot of women actually have more masculine energy generally. Masculine energy is directed. This is how you run your life. This is how you make plans. This is how you get things done. This is the directed energy. It's also an energy that is can be just empty. It's like full on consciousness presence that holds the space. So it's very solid, grounded. It's got a direction to it. It's not like really. It's kind of linear energy, but it's also now, I'm talking about this energy in a sense of it being a very healed kind of masculine energy, like a positive masculine energy, because there is a traumatized masculine energy as well. And that's kind of the patriarchic kind of energy that is more about masculine energy being, and a lot of people are scared of this idea of masculine energy because they've grown up with a masculine energy that is aggressive, power hungry, uh, um, intolerant, mean, like that. I hear clients say sometimes, well, I don't want to go into that. My father was really like aggressive and mean, and that's with his masculine energy. That's kind of a wounded masculine. That is a wounded masculine energy. So we're moving in and creating where we actually have a masculine energy that is not wounded, that is a healed masculine energy, which is more about, yes, it's direction and getting things done, but it's also about this big love for holding space for everything, consciousness. So then you have the feminine energy, and there's a wounded feminine and the sort of healed feminine as well. And the healed feminine energy is that wild, um, spontaneous, motion filled, like energy that's not connected to time, space, reality, that's very fluid and non-linear. And that you can just imagine that here's the masculine energy holding space, conscious love, and then the feminine energy is moving and swirling around inside of that. So we have both of those. We have that feminine energy. It's our artistic energy. We create with that energy. We get in the garden and we do stuff, or we create things and we lose sense of time kind of energy. We lose control and have many orgasms like that. And we have all that masculine energy too, because we need to get stuff done in this world. You got to make plans, you got to get organized, you got to get the kids to school, you got to get the food on the table, like that. That's masculine energy. So we have both. And the healing comes from taking the energies that have been imbued into the old belief systems, that wounded type of energy, the feminine wounded being afraid, held back, emotionless, um, subservient, you know, just quieted and meek. That is the feminine wounded energy. And allowing and helping people open up to their full on healed energies in everybody's bodies. Now, and some people, most people have an essence of more than one than the other. And women tend to 70, I don't know, there's a percentage, 70-80% of women tend to fall more into the feminine energy and prefer it there, prefer feeling that. And that percentage of men too. But we can also move through these energies, and we need to. We need to in order to survive. But generally, people don't understand this, have not been taught this, are not really experimenting with it too much, and are scared of it.
What are they scared of?
Well, they're scared of change because you get used to a certain way of being. Let's say you grow up with a mother that's a certain way. I mean, my mother was very much in her masculine energy. She was very much about women's equal rights, being like men, taking over from men. She actually doesn't like men at all, but she was very much in the masculine energy, in her way of thinking. But she wanted to be in her feminine energy, and she is very creative, and she would let that out at times, that creative force of hers. um but there's a fear of losing control, especially when you're in the feminine. It's a fear of, I can't go there, like I can't be wild, emotionally charged, you know dancing around the house, crazy feminine. I can't do that. I'm going to lose control of my life. So there's that huge fear of, like, and not even being able to move the body. Like I've never moved my body. Like how am I supposed to do that? My body's afraid. I'm afraid. So there's that huge amount of fear to allow yourself to go. So it's like it's a slow process of opening, of tapping into your wildness, let's say, but not wildness in a sense of losing control of your life, but wildness of being able to express yourself more of who you are, of what your body wants to do. Wild, like being able to dance wildly around the house and laugh and be emotional, but then being able to like come back and like, okay, I feel good now. Being able to cry and being okay with it. And then, all right, I feel better now. I've had a good cry. And knowing that that's okay and that's part of the feminine and the masculine too, um, being able to be strong and solid and take charge in a loving way and supporting that feminine, you know. One thing I really love about Brazil is that the men here have tapped into their feminine energy. So they're dancing, they're singing, they're more comfortable with moving their bodies here. And it stems from, African culture and just the ability to dance in ceremonies and allowing for that and the intimacy, touching people. And that's really missing in the Western culture because we're still holding on to a very strong, patriarchal way of being, be strong, be solid, be a man, don't express yourself. So there's like zero feminine energy in there. But men also need to allow that feminine energy to move through.
You have a fascinating personal story, and I'm not sure if the feminine energy would maybe tie into this, but could you share what it was like when your husband of 13 years came out as bisexual?
We were in a monogamous relationship up until the 13-year mark. And we had a good relationship. I mean, we were communicative couple. He was he was tapped into his feminine energy because he was brought up by his mother. Um, Probably more in his feminine than his masculine energy. And we went along quite well until one year everything started to like crumble and we weren't communicating and things were coming apart and I didn't really know what was going on and he was pulling away. And he then finally came out and told me that he had these bisexual urges. He was had these urges to want to see what it would be like being with men. Now he had told me this. He had been with some explored a little bit before our marriage with a few men, guys, boys, whatever. Had that experience. So it wasn't something that was brand new to me. I had heard about it before, but it was forgotten. We had kids, we had a house, we had a life. We were together as a monogamous couple. But we were both kind of was falling apart at one point. So once he told me, it was a shock because I didn't have any idea that that was what was going on. But it was also a huge relief because suddenly I knew what was going on. If anybody is in a situation where you're feeling like, what is going on in my relationship? What is going on with my partner? I don't understand. We're not talking in a communicative way. I don't know what's going on. He's like, I don't feel like there's truths coming out. You're feeling that because you're not communicating about what's really happening. And it's scary for many people to express sometimes these deeper desires. So once it came out, I feel a huge relief. And I had to take some time to kind of process, okay, I'm not really in a monogamous relationship anymore. He had actually experimented, explored with some men, cheated, let's say, but I started to call it exploring because um, we started to have some really good conversations about that. And he said, I really did not know what was going on for me. I didn't know what was happening. I was feeling these desires. I needed to go find out before I started talking to you about it or anybody. I need to find it out for me what this was all about. Of course, my response was, well, you could have told me. I could have like been there with you and helped you through. But he did what he had to do. And I had realized at that point, I'm not in a monogamous relationship anymore. And what am I going to do? So I decided that this was a good opportunity for me. At this point, I was in my mid 40s, early 40s, this was a good opportunity for me to now explore my own sexuality. Okay, let's do this. Let's open the relationship and see what this is all about. I want to see what's going on with you. And I'm really curious to see what else is out there for me in the sense of my own body. Like I felt had been talking to this woman who at that who was a sex coach actually, because I was involved with making film projects and stuff at that point. And I met up with a woman who's a sex coach. I was fascinated by her and her story. And so that was kind of happening simultaneously. And I was like, wow, she does this, she does that, she's talking about this. And like, wow, I didn't even know these kinds of experiences existed. I didn't know women could be multi-orgasmic. I didn't know there were different forms of orgasm. I didn't know any of that. So she was teaching, I was learning, then this was happening in my relationship. So I'm like, okay, let's go and learn about this. So then he and I went on for 10 years on this fantastical sexual journey together. And yeah, I mean, everything in my life changed at that point. And now here I am, you know, helping people all over the world.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. I want to be mindful of the time because I do have two closing questions for you, but before we go
Okay.
there, what have we not talked about that maybe would be important on the topic of sexual healing? What have we not covered?
We have to keep in mind that we are always in a state of sexual healing because there's so much that we don't understand about sex in our society. There's so much that we're learning. There's so much potential in how our sexual energy can serve us. Like, for example, this is ways that you can actually heal your body through your sexual energy, as your orgasm can be a means of healing your body. So you have pains that have come up in your knees or your back, and having orgasms helps that. Deeper levels of orgasms literally helps your body. It's taking the energy in your body and moving at very high vibrations, which creates a form of healing, right? So I think that we have to really open our minds to allowing ourselves to understand that, wow, like I can go into this whole, and I call it dimension of sexuality that's part of me. And I can transform myself in different ways. I can heal myself. It helps with feeling younger, more youthful, because your body comes alive more. Your body feels more awakened. You actually feel like your body is more expansive. It helps in longevity. So if you're having good sexual connections into your 70s, your 80s, your 90s even, you're feeling more youthful, feeling happier, feeling more loved. And I say, good, because it's not, don't just stay in that same way of having sex and thinking that that's it and that's all you'll ever do and it's boring and why even continue, because there's so many possibilities to in ways you can explore your sexuality. So many. I haven't found an end. I haven't found an end. So if it's connected to the healing of the human race, then I think that is something that we all have to be really observant of and practice in our lives.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the healing tool that nobody thinks of as a healing tool, and it's just like a win-win-win situation.
Yeah, as I talk about it, like you can say, "Oh yeah, that's true. You do feel better. I do feel better. My body does feel younger." You see people that are having good sex and they're like, bouncing around and have good energy, and you just feel better. You feel lighter. And again, it's not necessarily even having to be penetrated. It can be just being touched in certain ways and have certain experiences with your partner, or kinky experiences that can help you, you know connect to your own desire, release these desires that you have. So there's lots of different levels around sexuality um that you can play into. I call it the adult playground. It's literally like a playground. Like, oh, there's a slide. Ooh, there's that climbing thing over there. Oh, they've got some new equipment out here. Let's go check that out. So that's what sexuality is like. It's a playground. It's a place to be curious and explore and experiment, and you'll feel yourself transform in your body and in your emotional state as well. I mean, alleviates stress, anxiety, depression. I mean, natural remedy, right?
I love the way that you present it and the way that you communicate it. It's so refreshing. It's matter of fact, but at the same time, it still holds close that intangible, beautiful creativity of it. And just the way that you can teach it is just, it's very refreshing. So, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the first closing question is, what is your number one health tip? So that could be diet, mindset, nutrition, physical, emotional, just the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
Number one health tip. Hmm. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is self-pleasure. Self-pleasure. So that does not just mean masturbation, but it can include, but taking some time each week or even each day just to find ways to pleasure yourself. So it could be a hot bath, it could be, some music and you just dance, it could be just touching your body, but self-pleasure is so important um and necessary for us to connect deeper within ourselves to understand ourselves better in every level.
Yeah. For your final question, you get to choose a number 1 through 100, and it will correlate to a more personal question.
66.
What's the hardest truth you've ever had to accept?
Oh, the hardest truth I've ever had to accept. I think it probably comes down to that story that I told you when my husband came out as bisexual. Um, that moment, and he drove me up to the top of a mountain to tell me, it's a whole very dramatic story, actually, because of his fear of me running away, screaming at him, leaving him. He drove me to the top of a mountain and then in the middle of the night to tell me. It had a profound effect on my life. Um, but it was probably the biggest shock that I ever experienced so far because I thought I had a whole different conception of what my life was at that point and everything. And yeah, I mean, it didn't take me, it took, well, it was a process to integrate it into my life, but the first week after was really, really intense, really intense. But I always believe it's better to tell the truth, to reveal what's really going on, to be honest about who you are than anything else, holding in those kinds of things in our bodies. I see it all the time with people that have desires, and I work with a lot of people who are bisexual. They're now in their 60s or their 70s, and they've developed, severe pains in their bodies and um, complete dissociation with their partners because they haven't been able to express what they feel, haven't been able to be truthful.
Yeah.
And I see it as well when people are, you know, everything
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Leanna. Where can people go to hear more from you?
They can go to well, I have a whole bunch of different channels, but I have my online program school, the Sexual Empowerment Academy. I think I'll send you the links for that. That has programs and connection to me. My website as well, liannawaldencoaching.com, has information there, and definitely my YouTube channel. I have, I think, over 400 videos now, so there's something for everybody there. And I continue to put out a video each week based on what the audience is calling for. It's changed over the years. So right now I'm talking a lot to men in long-term relationships who are stuck and having problems. So that's kind of a target audience right now, but it's the men, but it's the couples really. So, but I have videos about all sorts of things. So that's a good place to find me and connect with me.
Excellent. And that will be in the show notes. And I second that. Check out the YouTube channel. Lots of value there. And thank you so much for all of the insights and the knowledge that you shared with us today. I appreciate you and I thank you and have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Much love making to you.